right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to switch gears entirely, moving away from mobile devices and instead talking about hangovers. That's right, a hangover cure. The only hangover cure approved by the FDA. Don't go away. You won't want to miss this. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Glad you're with us. We'll have a little fun for the last segment of the show today. And I tweeted out earlier that you might want to join us for this segment if you're one of those watching the debates and having sort of playing drinking games where you decide with your friends to drink every time one of the presidential candidates says one thing or another. And if you are playing those games, chances are tomorrow you might have a pretty tough hangover. And even if you're not playing a drinking game while watching our live coverage of the debate tonight on FoxNews.com Live with me and Harris Faulkner beginning at 8:45. See how I got that plug in? Even while we show the full screen there with the issue. The issue is how to cure that pesky hangover. Whenever you may have it, the solution could be to drink Blowfish, which is the only FDA-regulated hangover remedy. And Brenna Haysom is the founder of Blowfish, and she joins us now. It's good to see you. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So was this sort of born out of necessity for you? How did this come about?
So my background is in finance. I don't have a medical background, but I was working sort of typical finance hours, you know, very late at night, sometimes 7 days a week, and so I had to get a lot of socializing in a very short amount of time, and then still go to work the next morning.
Yeah.
So I just started, you know, doing my own research on trying to find something that would help me, you know, function like a normal person after maybe a couple too many the night before, and then did some research into what causes hangovers and kind of came up with the best thing that worked for me. I tried a lot of products out there, none of them seemed to work.
So here's what causes a hangover, according to Blowfish: dehydration, immune response, alcohol metabolites, congeners. Is that? Am I even saying that correctly?
Congeners.
Congeners.
Yep.
Never heard of that. We'll talk to you about that. Sleep disturbances, alcohol withdrawal, all of these things could lead you to have some hangover symptoms the next day. And I've always been told that sort of dehydration is the biggest problem.
Yeah,
right?
that's one of the biggest problems. They've actually done studies where they have people that are perfectly hydrated and they give them alcohol and they still have hangovers. So that's a big part of the problem, but it's definitely not the only part of the problem.
Okay, so what is Blowfish and how does it work?
So Blowfish, it's an effervescent tablet. You just take 2 tablets, drop them in water when you wake up, which makes them special. You
So
don't
not the night before, not that night
Not
before
that
you go to
night.
bed. You do it in the morning.
Right, exactly. You take it in the
Okay.
morning. And our philosophy is there are a lot of things that go into what causes a hangover. You're not going to be able to prevent it if you're going to drink. And so we focus on treating the symptoms. And so you drop these 2 tablets. They're effervescent tablets. They dissolve in the water and you drink. And then you kind of get on with your day. And most people say they feel better in kind of 15 to 30 minutes. It works very quickly because the tablets are dissolved when you take them.
What's in there? What's in the tablets?
So the 2 active ingredients are aspirin and caffeine. And so
okay.
it sounds like old-fashioned science, but and it is, but it really works. So there's no sort of special voodoo herbal magic. It's just old-fashioned aspirin, which takes care of this immune response that we talked about earlier. And then the caffeine, which helps with the pain relief, and then also wakes you up a little bit because...
So what's the difference between Blowfish and taking a couple of aspirin and a Starbucks, for example?
Right. No, good question. Well, 2 things. One is when you take the regular pills, they take a lot longer to dissolve in your stomach. They don't get into your small intestine where they're absorbed until much later. So they work faster. And the other thing that's important is caffeine is really tough on your stomach. So alcohol, as you may know, is very tough on your stomach. Aspirin can be tough on your stomach. And coffee is tough on your stomach. Medicinal caffeine is not in the same way. And the ingredients that make the tablets sort of fizz and bubble actually buffer your stomach. So they make it much better for your stomach and help your body absorb it much more quickly.
Is there anybody who wouldn't want to take Blowfish? I mean, you know, obviously, you know, things you buy over the counter, a lot of times it'll say, you know, sort of ask a doctor, or if you have certain other medical conditions you wouldn't want to also, or if you were taking other kinds of medication you wouldn't want to mix it with Blowfish. Any of those concerns for anybody?
Yeah, so it does have aspirin in it, so all of the aspirin warnings apply. So people who have, you know, known sensitivities to NSAIDs, which is aspirin, ibuprofen, things like that, should avoid it. If you have, you know, sensitivity to caffeine, you might want to take 1 tablet instead of 2. But other than that, you know, it's perfectly formulated for hangover symptoms. It's specifically designed for hangover symptoms, unlike other things in the drugstore. So it's meant to sort of really work for everybody. But obviously, you know, it is a drug, so people should take care.
Now, the FDA regulation, the FDA has not approved Blowfish for hangovers, but you are regulated by the FDA. What's the distinction there? What does that mean?
So they recognize our formulation as effective for treating hangovers specifically. And without getting too much into FDA regulations, we came in sort of into the FDA purview. They by definition, regulate all over-the-counter drugs, which we are one. And we came in through the OTC monograph process, not through a new drug application. So Tylenol, for instance, Excedrin came in through the same process we did. Advil or Aleve are newer chemical compounds, so they came in through a new drug application. So, you know, what people need to know for the consumer's perspective is all of our ingredients, our manufacturing, our labeling, our claims are all regulated by the FDA in the same way that names like, you know, Tylenol and Excedrin are.
The cost of Blowfish, how much does it cost? Because I could see this, especially here in New York City, where they have these fancy parties and you get a little goodie bag as you go home. You know, a nice host might want to sort of drop a couple of these, you know, into those takeaway bags,
yeah,
right?
it's popular for that. It's really popular for wedding gifts, bachelor parties, things like that as well. But yeah, so a single dose is $2.99, and then this is a 6-dose, 12-tablet, and that is $11.99. It's available in Duane Reade for people in New York City. It's on drugstore.com or Amazon.com for people that are in other places. And you can also buy it at our website. We have samples if people want to try it for free on our website, which is forhangovers.com.
So the best way to avoid a hangover is to drink responsibly, and of course, you know, that's what we would try to encourage people to do. But in the event that you have a few too many as you're celebrating a wedding or New Year's Eve or something along those lines, maybe this is something you want to look into. It's called Blowfish. Again, the website is forhangovers.com. You can also find them on Twitter at Blowfish Hangover with one H there. On Twitter, and Brenna Haysom is the founder of Blowfish. Thanks so much, Brenna.
Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. Thanks very much. And maybe I'll ask you if I could have a couple of these. I'll try them out and get back to you next time I have a hangover, although I try to avoid that at all costs.